Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode in this multiplayer inventory series where I try to go over some tricks and tips and try to bring you guys up to a more intermediate area level with an Unreal Engine. Now today we're going to be going over how to remove and use items from the inventory. So let's begin. So in the last episode we did a basic structure with RPC and public entry points and stuff like that. So let's continue on with this structure as we go through the removal of items. So we're going to add in two new view functions. Blueprint callable, because we want this to be callable on the client as well as on the server in case you're doing a listed server architecture. And yeah, category inventory. Now this is going to be a boolean to remove item, and we're just going to have a base item pointer that we want to remove and a quantity. And we're also going to do a view function, blueprint callable, for removing an item at an index. We're just going to have the index and the quantity that we want to remove. Now, these are our public entry points, but they're not the definition of the functions that we want to create. Now we have two options here. We could either we could get the item at the index here and then pass in that item into this function here, so that we're essentially only needing to define one RPC and one function, or we could define them separately. I think I'm going to go with the two RPC approach because it's just going to be easier to in the long run, especially to debug and find the errors with that, or rather is it going to be easier to now we could have either two RPCs to remove an item and to remove an item at an index, so one each, or we could set it so that remove item at index gets the item at that index and then removes the item using the other function. I'm going to go with an RPC each and a definition each because it's going to be easier to optimize it later, since, well, searching through the list of inventory slots to find the right item is going to be a lot less efficient than just going straight to that index and remove that quantity. Or what we could do, another option, is we could find the index of this item and then call this, but no, I'm going to go with an RPC each and a definition each, just because I'm trying to keep it simple here. Don't overcomplicate it. It's going to make your life a lot harder than it needs to be. So let's begin. So let's actually copy this because it's going to have the same sort of structure. So let's copy it twice down, and there's going to be attempt to remove item and server remove item, and let's copy this function name here and copy it down here, and let's copy this. So to try and keep it nice and neat, or at least easier to read, let's add a comment here to say adding methods and removing methods, and let's have one here just to say utility methods. So it's a bit easier to read. It's not massively improved it, but it's just a bit easier. Yes. So I'm just going to highlight all of this and Alt Enter, and it should generate this for us. So let's group them together a little bit neater then. So let's move it down to here, and that's going to go down to there. and I'm actually going to group these together as well. So we can do pragma regions. So pragma region add item, there we go. And then we need to put at the end pragma end region. And then what we can do is we can collapse it down. And we can actually nest these as well. So if we do pragma region remove item, and then end region down here. So I've been doing Unity as well in the side, and it's been confusing keeping both of these in my head at the same time. So we're going to have another sub-region. Say region remove object. Let's go with that. Region. And then what we can do is we can collapse this, and then we can just work on this bit, and it makes it just a little bit easier to work on it. So this is our entry point, as we mentioned before. So let's just copy the basic structure that we had before. If get owner has authority, then we remove here. Attempt remove. We need just one more variable, which is this. Let's add those in. Oh, this is going to be a pain. No. Oh no, thank God it's just those two. Okay. Wait, what? Ah. Sorry, I'm supposed to be making this less confusing, not more confusing. Just make sure that the parameters match up properly. And then what we can do is we can add in the remaining amount of the parameter there, and finally everything makes sense again. And we need to add that in here as well. Sorry about that, that was not intentional. So let's return false out of attempt to remove item at index. And we need to first instantiate a remaining inventory of remaining quantity variable there, so we can pass it in by reference so it doesn't cause an error. Bit of a pain, but yeah. Okay. So yes. Now let's add in another pragma region to remove an index, and just Control D to duplicate in region. And we can now close this down, and let's open up remove object. So remove object, going to have the same base structure. We're going to check if the owner has authority, and then we're going to return attempt to remove item with those parameters passed in. And then if not, then we're going to call the server RPC, which will then call the remove item here again, and it should now enter this bit, and yeah, here we're also going to return false. Okay, now let's add in the last bit. Or should we add in the usage items now, or should we do that after we've implemented the removal methods? Let's give ourselves a break and let's do them afterwards. We'll separate it out properly. Okay, so build it, and it should now hopefully run appropriately. We could also, if you wanted to be a bit more pedantic, is we could do something like add item as a category of inventory add. This has an inventory remove, and just copy this down here. Then we can just move. Pipe operator, and there we go. Now it's separated out a little bit more. Perfect. Okay. Okay, now we've got Unreal open back up again. Let's go back to our inventory component. A little shortcut for me is to go to the first person player controller and then just right clicking on it, edit it. Now we should have two more variables that we can override. I'm going to override attempt to remove item at index first because it should be easier. So let's go to our inventory slots and let's get copy for now. And what we also need to do first of all is we need to check if this is a valid index to begin with, because it might not be. We can't guarantee that until it passes this branch. If it is true, then we do that. If it's false, then we just set remaining amount to there and return false. If it is true though, then we get the index and set array element equal to something. Let's have a think here. So we want to remove a certain amount from the index. We first of all need to check, if we break this, max stack of the item at that index. So is it max stack? Let's check. No. No. We need to check if the quantity minus the quantity here, if this is going to be equal, or sorry, less than 0. If that's going to be less than 0, then we need to set an overflow value equal to the absolute value of this, so that we know how much. No, not set the absolute, we need to add this to. Okay, so we need to check if the stack amount at the slot is less than or equal to the amount to remove. So we need to check if this is less than or equal to quantity. And if it is, then what we can do is set the amount to, yeah, okay, so we write this to a local variable, call it overflow. Now what we can do is we can set overflow equal to current overflow minus quantity at the slot, and set that equal to there, and then we set the array element, sorry, no, we need to get the index from index. Yes, index. Why is Unreal search function so crap sometimes? Inventory slots go there. And item, we're just going to make an item and make sure it's completely cleared. So if the item slot should be cleared, set the slot struct to empty. There we are. Okay, so that's if the amount that we're trying to take away is greater than the slot that we're trying to do. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to add a sequence here before the true node, before the branch. And then what we're going to return out is the overflow, because that's how much we've still got left. And the return value being the overflow is less than or equal to 0. And the reason why we're doing a sequence here is because when we get to the end of here, it will just automatically then go, okay, we finished with this branch, now let's go down here. So we don't have to do this twice, essentially. Okay, so if it's false though, then we just remove the amount of the slot. So set array element again, inventory slots and index again, and inventory slot is going to be equal to the item that we've already got. And the quantity is going to be equal to our current quantity take away minus the overflow that we've currently got. And then we're going to set overflow equal to 0. Because, well, think about it, we've taken away what we need from here, and yeah, compile this, save it. Now we need to do pretty much the exact same thing with temp remove item, just in general. But this time we need to keep track of, we need to do basically this branch here for every slot in the inventory. So what we can do, this is quite messy, I'm going to try and clean it up real quick. Everything's quite compacted together. So I'm just going to move this into the center here to try and give it some space. Quantity, I'm just going to add some reroute nodes, try and make it look a bit nicer, a bit easier to read. Okay, I'm going to drag this further down here, and this branch I could probably forward a little bit. And I can move the sequence back because we don't need it for the next bit. So this to me is a bit easier to read. I'm just going to make this up slightly. Okay. I'm just going to copy this. So everything after the sequence we're going to copy. Then in the attempt to remove, we're just going to keep that in the clipboard for now. We're going to do a for each loop through the inventory slots. And then we're going to break this. And if item is equal to our item that we're trying to find, get item, then we're going to essentially do the same thing that we just did. The branch. Now, you can probably see that our local variables don't look correct. So if you see here, they've got this nice opaqueness to them in here. They've got a white tint on top. That's because, well, if you look over here, we have no local variables. So we can just create the variables by right-clicking on them, create local variable, and create local variable. Now we need to set quantity equal to here. And valid, and we've got an error. Why have we got an error? Because the name of this function here, this variable here, is the same as this. So what we need to do is wait. Why do we have a variable called quantity to begin with? My mistake. We can get rid of that. Quantity and index. Oh no. Okay, so we can create a local variable called index as well, and just set that every time that we enter into this. So the array index, like that. And we have another one. We need to break this up here as well. Anything else? Nope. Perfect. Okay, now we need to return out of here, and the return is going to be the overflow there, and if this is less than or equal to 0. As always. Okay. And then here, what we can actually do is instead of a for each loop, we can do a for each break. And just hold Control and drag these down. That's how you do. And that's how you reconnect stuff like that. Then what we can do is if overflow is greater than 0, then we can just set it to break once it reaches that point. And just highlight both, press Q, and it should straighten them out for you. Perfect, okay. So if we go back to our event graph, if we add item there, and now if we remove index, so if we remove, I think it's remove item and index, yeah. If we set that index to 0 and our in quantity to, let's start with 1, and then let's do another remove item. Let's set our item that we want to remove equal to first person character. So that's the item that we're adding, and we want to remove, let's go with 5. No, because this is going to run twice. Let's set this to 3. So we should be left with 2 instances of first person character left in the inventory, I hope. Let's add a breakpoint here just to be sure. Okay. Slot 0 has -2. Hmm. Quantity minus. Let's make sure this is clamped between, well, max being quantity. Let's go to our other remove item here, and do the same thing. So we'll clamp this in 0 and the original quantity, because it really shouldn't be going above that value. And let's play it now. Still not completely correct. Let's investigate a bit further. Let's see which one's causing this. So we're trying to remove one item here. So originally it had 10 items being added, and now it has 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has 8 items remaining. So that's working, as far as I can tell. So it's adding an item, 1, 2, 4, and it's replicating down. Okay, let's actually add this in as well here. Successful, and let's do this. Okay. Clear this. Let's play. So, it's remaining item 0. Remove items at index true, remaining item 0. So it has removed one item there, and it's adding item true, remaining item 0, and then remove item index. So it's attempting to remove how many items did I set it to? 1. So yeah, that seems to be working fine. Now let's investigate the other one. So attempting to remove 3, so this is the test. That. So let's actually attempt to remove 3 here as well. Let's see what happens if we set it greater than the amount that's actually at that slot. It should return false with the remaining items of 1. And it's not. But yeah, there. Here it is. It's none, and then, yep, add item remaining 0, remove item index remaining 0. That's to be expected from the client calls. Remember, server RPCs can't return stuff. So if you're calling this from the client, then you can't really trust the output of that. For that purpose, I think I might remove the return values, but I think I'll keep them in just for now. Go back to the inventory component. Now let's test the other one. Say we want to remove 3 from anywhere in the inventory, and we should now be left with nothing in the inventory, if I remember correctly. That's a great point, because it might be messing stuff up. So let's actually add in a has authority check here, because this is messing with my head a little bit. Move item as well, change that, go back here. You know how I said last episode I thought this would be less complicated than the other one. I don't think it's true. So so we're removing, as you can see here, we're not calling the RPC yet because all these are being processed on the server, and then after it's finished then it calls the RPC. So we're adding 5 items. It's index 1, 0, 1, 2. Then we try to remove 3 from the first index, which has completely cleared it, and then we're removing 3 from the remaining ones. So we have it should be removed from that last index as well. Why are we not doing that? Why is it saying it returned true, didn't it? Yeah. Let's remove this part here because we know that remove item index works. At least mostly. Yeah. So remove item. Setting the overflow, clearing the slot equal to overflow minus the quantity. And that slot. So overflow at this point should be 3. Right? Yep, 3 minus 2. So this should be 1. And we clear that slot, and then it should iterate to the next one. Same item, yep. The quantity is there we go. Oh no, such simple mistake. So now if we get rid of this has authority check here and add in remove item index and set this, let's set this to 2. And if we, so that's going to add 10, and this is going to remove 4, and this is going to remove 6, so we should be left with nothing left in the inventory. Let's have a look at the player controller. And yes, I'm not expecting a rep notify to call because when it's checked if the value's changed, it technically hasn't, even though we've performed 3 different functions on it. So if we go have the inventory slots, nothing, and if we look at the end, nothing. This is what we'd expect to happen. So perfect. Have a little play around with this. See if you guys can spot any bugs. If you do, please report them down in the comments below. I will make an addendum series after this has been completed, and by the time that you guys are watching this, every episode will be pre-recorded. So I'll keep an eye out in the comments in each video to come up with an addendum series if you find any bugs or any common issues and stuff like that. So yeah, make sure that you guys stay tuned for that. And I'll just check quickly how long we have. This is a half-hour episode. I might quickly go over using items because that's going to be a lot simpler, a hell of a lot simpler. So let's just go to content drawer, save everything, go to rider, go back to here, and now we're going to just copy these 2. So Control D in rider at least. Alt Control, and now you can edit 2 lines at the same time. I'm going to do use item, and I'm going to keep quantity, yes, but we don't need remaining amount anymore. And let's add in another header here to say using methods, and this is going to have, let's just copy this entire removal method stuff here, and let's do that trick with Alt Control, and just everywhere that you see remove, just go to the end of that letter and type in remove, and type in use. And then we can do the same thing with the quantity as well, because we don't need, no sorry, remaining amount, sorry not quantity, we need quantity still. There we go, and I think that's all good. Now, same method again, highlight everything, fine. Now, they'll probably be in the same pragma regions as the last stuff that we did, so just move them out. Pragma region use item, and pragma end region. And let's just rearrange these so they sort of match up. Yeah. Okay, so same thing as before. If get owner has authority, then attempt to use item, get the item and the quantity, and then return this. If not, then server use item and then return true. Okay, and server use item with this, and attempt to use item implementation, just return false for now, and the same thing here. So let's just copy this over, really, and we're going to copy and use item at index instead, with the index here. Just copy this before the implementation part, and we're done. And use item at index with the index and the quantity, and in here we're just going to return false, and there we go. Using items pretty much nearly there. Let's recompile, run this, and let's open up the editor once again. And then we can just quickly do this. Since we're not messing around with the stack amounts or any of that stuff, then we can just, yeah, pretty much just get the item at the index, call it. Okay, so if we now open up our inventory component, we should now be able to override use item. And, well, I'm not going to do a check to see if we've got this in the inventory. You can, but I'm just going to assume that this is something that we're going to call externally to say, like in a dialogue series or in a cutscene, to say this character used this item, even though it's not in the inventory, we can apply it. This is the sort of thing that I'm envisioning for this usage item function. So we're just going to, we don't actually have the interface required to use an item yet, so I'm just going to say print text format text, so used amount item. And then we're just going to, if we want to, we can actually remove item with this item and quantity, and then this return value can actually go in here. Using an item at index, though, this will require a check in inventory. So is valid index. Index. If you don't have this, then it will actually return a index out of bounds if it's out of bounds. And then going to check if it's yeah, and then get a copy at that index, and we need to split the struct, check if the quantity at that struct is greater than or equal to the quantity that we're passing in, and if that's true, then we call this. We could actually just call use attempt to use item, but I like to keep things more modular than that. So we're going to turn here, and the amount and item we're going to get here. Sorry, quantity we're going to get from there. And if either of these are false, then we're just going to return false. Perfect. Okay, so that's our basic blueprint implementation. The next episode we'll be going over interaction with items, so we can actually pick them up using components and inputs. Then after that we're going to be looking into a much deeper deep dive into interfaces and other best practices. Yeah, I hope you guys found this episode helpful, or at least, well, helpful. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next episode.